I would say maybe the two biggest tools that you learn going through the soil food web is building compost, which is one tool, and then using a microscope are your two main tools that you learn through this entire process. Because once you learn those two things, those are your two biggest tools for remediating soil or going somewhere, I would assume, in the field and making compost for a client or an organization, or showing them how to do it, and then remediating soil with that kind of lighter fluid, almost, to setting your organisms up for that soil, that property.
I would agree with you. I mean, the microscope, for people that aren't really into the work or don't have the inclination, the microscope isn't necessary. You can make great compost, you can put it out, you can do a lot of good things without the microscope. For me, the beauty of the microscope is knowing what you're putting out. And that peace of mind is nice for me. And then in addition to that, it's easier to track soil biology over time if you're working on a piece of land, if you're using a microscope. There's obviously other metrics that you can track that are fine. So for anybody who's interested but not that interested, I would say don't stay away from composting because of that. But if you have even like the slightest inclination to know what's going on, then the microscope is indispensable for that.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to be an expert on the microscope, but if you understand what you're seeing under the microscope, and at least understanding what that picture looks like now, and you could use a simple iPhone to track organisms that you can see in multiple fields, and then track it, 4 weeks later and say, okay, I have more of these specific type. What are these? Oh, that's protozoa. Well, I seem to have 20% more than I did last time I was looking in the microscope. That's a simple way, I would say, and other than, calculating and putting into these crazy algorithms and getting really key metrics out that you need to track down to the T. It's something that you can just, as a hobbyist almost, just in your local garden, you can just start looking at it, recognizing based on information you get from, me on my channel or on Soil Food Web. If you're an FC student, like, okay, I understand what all these little organisms are, and I see the good ones, and maybe I see some bad ones too. So understanding just, and what I say by bad, I mean the organisms that show up in low oxygen conditions that we deem non-beneficial to plant growth.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like there's the qualifying and then there's the quantifying. The deeper you get, the more you want to quantify things, especially for experiments. But yeah, totally. You can just like look at the organisms, see what's there, see what's growing more, see what's not, and you don't have to count every single one. We don't count every one. But yeah, you don't have to crunch the numbers and be so rigid about it, depending on what your goals are. Yeah, that's a great point.
Understanding the Soil Food Web principles and how to implement them, the compost, the teas, the extracts, the microscope work, how has that changed how you grow plants?
It's changed it a lot.
Yeah, it's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed my mindset, just from basically where I started. And then, like I said before, it informs almost everything I do with plants. And again, it's the bigger picture of soil health, right? Like I know, you should keep the soil covered, and there's all these other things. But with the soil food web work, soil microbiology in particular, I'm always thinking about, how do we make sure we have organisms, a diverse set, and a lot of the ones that we want in the right balance? How do we keep them there? And how do those organisms interact with the plant and everything else? So yeah, it's always on my mind.
Be sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any new Soil Food Web or homesteading content.